Welcome to the Plant Trainers Podcast, where we're helping people improve their quality of life through nutrition and fitness. And now, your hosts, nutrition and wellness coaches, international speakers, Adam and Shoshana Chaim.
Hey, I'm Adam Chaim.
And I'm Shoshana Chaim, and we are
Propelled by Plants. Today we bring to you episode 206, How Not To Die with Dr. Michael Greger.
We work hard throughout the year to bring you high quality information and amazing guests, and we are taking a little break throughout the summer. But as you know, since you're listening to this podcast right now, it does not mean that we're stopping. What we've done is we've made a collection of our favorite guests and some of the most popular shows, and we're bringing them back to you for 3 reasons.
So basically, some of you have been with us since the beginning, and now that we have over 200 episodes, we thought that not everybody has been subscribed since the beginning, and we don't want you to miss some of these really important shows like the one that we have for you today. So every time we re-listen to our podcasts or our webinars or lectures, we take away something new or we realize something different.
And you might know somebody who can benefit from this show, and maybe you didn't think about it the first time. So as you're re-listening to the show and getting some new revelations, just kind of think about who could really benefit from this information in the show, and who do you want to pass it on to, and please share it with them.
So this episode is with Dr. Michael Greger, and everybody knows him from nutritionfacts.org. He's a super funny guy. He's a wealth of knowledge. He's a walking encyclopedia. And we talk about so many different things in this episode, one of which is his book, How Not To Die, which if you haven't checked it out already, you must check that book out.
But more specifically, we talked about pregnancy, we talked about eggs, and we talked about why you should stop eating Chinese tea. Yes, I said eating, not drinking. We also talked about a lot more. We really do hope that you re-enjoy the show. The new cookbook is finally done. We created a cookbook that's perfect for any home, whether you're one person or a large family. Our beef or tofu with cookbooks is that you always want to make all the recipes in the book, and then you're left over with 1,000 ingredients and you don't know what to do with them. And also, recipes can be really, really difficult and take over an hour just for the main course. But this book is different. It's divided by ingredients, which allows you to A, batch cook and save time. Many recipes are made in under just 15 minutes. And B, plan your weekly meals based on ingredients, which saves you money. So head over to planttrainers.com or click on the link in the show notes and get your easy recipes for busy parents cookbook today. It's so simple, even your kids can make the meals. And did I mention that some of the recipes can be made in under 15 minutes?
And now for a moment of gratitude.
Since it's the summer and we want to always be true in our moment of gratitude, and we're not here to give one right now, we are just going to ask you to take a moment and find something that you're grateful for in your own life. We're here today with Dr. Michael Greger. We're so excited to have you on the podcast today, Dr. Greger. Thank you so much for being here. If you are willing to share a moment of gratitude with us and our listeners, we would be grateful.
I am grateful to have the opportunity to help so many people, sitting at home in my jammies. I love the internet.
Jammies are definitely great.
Indeed.
So thank you again so much for being here with us today. And most of our listeners do know who you are. I can't believe if anybody doesn't know who you are, but maybe you can give us a little bit of background on what brought you to medicine.
It was actually my grandma. I think the spark for many kids to want to be a doctor when they grow up is watching a grandparent get sick or even die. But for me, it was watching my grandma get better. She was diagnosed with end-stage heart disease. She already had so many bypass surgeries, open heart surgeries. You just kind of run out of plumbing at some point. And so she, crushing chest pain, confined in a wheelchair. They sent her home to die. There's nothing more they could do. So her life was over at age 65. And then she heard about this guy, Nathan Pritikin, one of these early lifestyle medicine pioneers, who had started a clinic out in California. And she's actually featured in his biography. He talks about one of these early success stories with this woman named Frances Greger, who arrived, was wheeled in, and a few weeks later, after a good plant-based diet and graded exercise program, she was, walking 10 miles a day, went on to live another 31 years till 96 with her 6 grandkids, including me. Not only inspiring one to go to medical school, but being there to see him graduate. And that's not only why I'm in medicine, but why I practice the kind of medicine I do, which is lifestyle medicine, using diet not only to prevent disease, but prevent and treat and reverse potentially as well.
And so much prevention is really key for so many people out there, because there's lots of great people doing work like you're doing to help reverse people who are very sick, but we want to get the word out to everybody else who doesn't know about it yet, that you can keep yourself from being sick. You don't have to choose to be sick. We can't change DNA, but we can change lifestyle, and we could change really bad outcomes for the future.
No, we can. Right. Our DNA is the same, but we can switch genes on and off. That's the whole exciting new field of epigenetics. And we can do that with diet and lifestyle changes. And, people may feel healthy, but, most children eating the standard American diet have what are called fatty streaks, which is the first stage of atherosclerosis in their arteries by the age of 10. So people who think, I wonder if I should, start eating healthy to prevent heart disease. No, the question is whether or not you want to eat healthy to reverse the heart disease you already have.
So everybody's already got the heart disease started at a very young age. So that means that even as a child, as young as when you're born, you should be starting to eat this way.
Actually, even before you're born. So I have a video called "Heart Disease Starts in Childhood." I have a video that's not yet up on the site coming up called "Heart Disease Starts in the Womb," and they found based on stillborn babies and infants that died very early on autopsy, they had lesions in their arteries based on what their mothers ate, based on the cholesterol levels of their mothers. So these diseases start early and can depend on what your mother ate while you were still in utero. And so that's why it's never too early to start eating healthier. And the exciting thing, it's never too late either. So even late in life, you can have remarkable benefits. Unless, of course, you die from sudden cardiac death, which is the number one killer of men and women. Your first symptom is your last. You don't even know you have heart disease until you're literally dying from it. That's why prevention is key, because there is no cure for dead.
There's definitely no cure for dead. Let's go back to the womb a little bit, because you see, or maybe you don't see, but I see quite often written in Facebook groups, plant-based Facebook groups, that doctors are recommending that vegan women, or mostly plant-based women, consume more fish and more eggs while they are pregnant to be able to keep up with all the nutrients and calories that they need.
The thought that we should be eating anything fatty out of the oceans during pregnancy, that's a scary thought because of the heavy metals. The current recommendations, federal guidelines, is for pregnant women to limit the intake of particularly large predator fish because we've so polluted our waterways. All that mercury released from the coal burning eventually settles in our oceans, builds up the food chain, and even mercury levels below the kind of so-called safety level have been shown to be associated with neurological deficits, both early, late, even in adulthood. But the developing fetus is particularly sensitive, so I would encourage pregnant women in particular to cut out seafood now. And whatever your doctor wants you to get. If your doctor thinks you need DHA, these long-chain omega-3 fatty acids, you can take algae-based DHA, which is where the fish get it from in the first place. You can cut out the middle fish, cut out those toxic heavy metals, and get a pollutant-free source of omega-3s, right? What do they want in eggs? They probably bought this egg industry line that we need to get choline. We get more than enough choline. In fact, in people that eat meat, choline, like carnitine, can turn into this toxic stuff called trimethylamine oxide, which plays havoc on our arteries. So we may be getting too much choline. It's an essential nutrient, but we can get too much. It's like cholesterol. We make all we need. We don't need to take extra in our diet. But for choline, most people get enough. And in fact, if they're eating eggs, they may be getting too much if they have those kind of gut bacteria that make trimethylamine.
So also parents find that they have to fight we did this at the beginning too. We needed to fight our own parents and extended family members on why this was, not only why this was, but that it actually was a good diet for us and that we can thrive on it, and then bringing our children along on it. We have a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old now, and lots of people are fighting from the rest of the family, saying there's no way a growing child is going to be able to thrive on this. Their brain's not going to develop, their body's not going to develop. You're doing them a disservice.
You should tell them why don't you ask Dr. Benjamin Spock, the most esteemed pediatrician in human history, wrote the second best-selling book, second to only to the Bible, right? So Child and Baby Care. In the 7th edition, the last one he wrote before he died in his 90s, he recommended that all children be raised with zero exposure to meat and dairy. So this is Dr. Spock saying this. Give them the book and say, read it.
So why are doctors so not with it in that case? Like, you hear that doctors don't get much nutrition teaching in school. Why are doctors so quick to prescribe medication rather than food? I mean, that's an obvious answer, I think. But why are doctors so not behind the 8 ball on this? Why are they so far behind?
Because they have a severe nutrition deficiency in education. I mean, they just don't. I mean, they weren't taught it. How are you supposed to know? What, you think we're not born with this knowledge? You learn it. If you don't learn it, you don't know it. So, if only there was this great website where there was awesome nutrition science that people could learn.
And there is.
And there
wasn't.
Until now.
And so nutritionfacts.org is the site that you put together with your team, and you dissect so many great studies and scientific research. And that brings me to another question that gets asked so often, which is, how do you differentiate between studies that are actual science that make sense or studies that are
built around a certain outcome,
a product or an outcome, or directed by funds to gear the results to a certain way? Like, how do you know what's real? So for the average person, if they didn't go to your website and they were looking at research, how are they going to differentiate?
Well, I mean, you can follow the money. So these days, most journals have conflict of interest disclosures where they have to at least say where the money's coming from. And so you can get a sense. Of course, the biggest problem in science is not that people aren't disclosing their conflicts of interest, is the fact that there are conflicts of interest. And maybe we shouldn't be publishing, milk studies funded by the dairy industry, or for that matter, avocado studies, funded by the avocado industry. It's like, I mean, because even if they say, okay, this milk study is funded by the, dairy industry, doesn't mean it's a bad study, but it calls into question whether or not it was designed in such a way or interpreted in such a way to please the funders. And in fact, when you actually stand back and look, there is indeed what they call the funding effect, where, surprise, surprise, studies done by soda companies on the effects of soda on your health, you have wildly different results on average than independent studies on the effects of soda on people's health. And soda companies are like, oh no, we would never, bias the results of the, studies we fund. And it's just like, oh, it's just a coincidence? And if you run the statistics, it's like 1,000,000 to 1 that all these studies, and same thing with dairy industry studies. And so, you really have to turn a skeptical eye towards studies that are bought and paid for by a certain industry with a commercial agenda.
I'd also like to take a moment to discuss the myth that meta-analysis is a lazy man way of research. So when the WHO published their study with the processed meats, a lot of people were saying that, the meta-analysis, they didn't actually do their own research. All they did was look at other people's research. So there's no weight to it. So maybe can you talk to us a little bit about what meta-analysis is and why it's so important to science?
So yeah, meta-analysis is just kind of a compilation of kind of a review, a systematic review of studies meeting certain criteria. And so it's even more outrageous that to say, oh, there was no new research doing done, exactly, meaning we've known about this for years, that processed meat is a carcinogen. You didn't have to do anything. You just had to put it all together. In fact, I've got a video coming out soon talking about the processed meat and talking about the classic 2009 update of the American Institute for Cancer Research kind of review of all the science to date. It's the most comprehensive study of diet and cancer in history. They did their 2009 colorectal cancer update and said that you should stop eating processed meat, period. No processed meat. It's carcinogenic. This is, 6 years ago. How much, research do you need? And in the 60s, when the Surgeon General finally came out with their first report against smoking, they had accumulated 7,000 studies showing that smoking was associated with increased risk of lung cancer and other adverse outcomes. 7,000 studies. How many people have to die, right? You think after 6,000 they give people a little heads up or something? No. Right? And so it's just a way now. Look, it can be garbage in, garbage out. If you have 10 crappy studies and you do a meta-analysis of 10 crappy studies, you have a crappy meta-analysis, So it doesn't automatically mean you have a better result, but it does give you a sense that you're not kind of cherry picking, that you're not just taking one study and saying, look, this is, you're saying, well, this is the new result in the context of all the results that have been done, and that's how we make decisions in life, is based on the best available balance of evidence.
It still drives me crazy that this information's been around for so long, and now it's finally coming to the forefront, and people are still not believing it. They think it's not true. I guess people just have a hard time with change and don't want to do what's difficult for them. I just don't get it.
Well, then let them not do anything. As long as people know, look, if you want to keep smoking, but you should know it's not good for you. As a physician, what more can I say? If you want to keep feeding your kids something that has now been deemed as a conclusive, definite human carcinogen, you want to keep giving them chicken nuggets and lunch meat and turkey slices, right? Go for it. Free country, right? You should just know the predictable consequences of your actions.
If you're able to keep your child on a vegan diet, on a plant-based diet, for a clean plant-based diet for the first 10 years of their life, and then after that they make their own choices, what kind of building block are you giving them for the future? Does that mean that once they turn 10 and they start eating chicken, everything's reversed? Or are you...
Yeah, it's probably bad.
Yeah.
And the reason is, the reason one would suspect that is because when you see these absolutely remarkable results comparing vegetarians to omnivores, for example, in terms of cancer rates, diabetes rates, high blood pressure, all these things, and you actually look what they mean by vegetarian, they're usually defined, the average duration of vegetarianism in some of these large studies, that's like 7 years, right? So what you're actually doing, if they're like 50 years old on average, is you're comparing a 50-year meat eater to a 43-year meat eater. One person it's like saying, comparing smokers to non-smokers, but the non-smokers quit last week. And you say, wow, there's no difference in lung cancer rates. Non-smokers versus smokers, you're comparing a 50-year smoker to a 49-year smoker. But what's amazing is you see these dramatic health differences. You see dramatically lower rates of premature death and diabetes and all these things. And they basically ate meat almost as long, but just one stopped eating meat a little while ago, which suggests the body can reverse can come back to health, can clean out all the tar, clean out all the garbage from the body. So that's this wonderful optimism that's awesome. The body wanted to be healthy all along, and you just let it. You know, have a nice clean diet, and your body can, you know, reverse chronic disease in many cases. But the opposite is true. You can trash your health really quickly as well. So, for example, there was a study in the Adventist cohort. They said, well, what happens to lapsed vegetarians? People who were vegetarian, but then started to eat meat at least once a week. What happened? Dramatic increase in all the chronic diseases. In fact, over the 10 or 15 year period they looked at, though lapsed vegetarians cut like 3 years off their lifespan. I mean, just absolutely dramatic results, you know, just by starting to eat meat again, which shows that, which is great in one sense, meaning, wow, we have tremendous control over our health and longevity, but we can screw it up.
What's one of the most significant studies that you've come across that's impacted your own thinking?
Well, I mean, they all, you mean like changed my eating or change? I mean, so probably the most exciting new study was the cell metabolism study I talk about in my new annual review about the animal protein, that eating animal protein midlife dramatically increases cancer risk. Eat a lot of animal protein, 73 times higher risk of death from diabetes. And those who chose moderation, just a moderate amount of animal protein, 23 times more higher odds of death from diabetes compared to those with low animal protein intakes. I mean, those are just off the chart kind of numbers. And so, yeah, that's really one of the most dramatic cohorts. The Swedish milk studies that I talked about. You know, basically, if you look at my annual review, I mean, I talk about what's the most compelling new data on diet over the last year. And so those are two of the studies I profile.
Has there been any study that's been an upset for you? So something that science was really proving something for so long, and then all of a sudden, boom, everything you thought kind of disintegrated in front of your eyes?
I mean, there's definitely things that have, I mean, probably the latest thing that was really concerning to me was the discovery of how much lead was in Chinese green tea. Throughout the 1990s, they still used leaded gas in China. And so it wasn't until year 2000 when they finally banned leaded gas. And so the tea plantation, so you can actually measure, you know, the lead concentration in soil. There's this kind of exponential drop away from the roads. And the tea leaves take up the lead. Now, the lead in the tea leaves actually does not leach into the hot water. So if you make tea, that's fine. But I've been telling people not to just make tea, but to eat tea. Actually put tea leaves in their smoothies, right? Because it's like, you know, it's like, that'd be like boiling collard greens and then throwing out the greens and drinking the water. Yeah, sure, some nutrition leached out, but you're throwing away all that great stuff. What are you doing? That's craziness. But the problem, if you do that with Chinese green tea, as opposed to Japanese green tea, you could get really nasty levels. So, I mean, there's almost zero safety, zero room for pregnant women, for example, eating like any Chinese green tea. And the limits are very, so I go through, if you're a child, if you're a pregnant woman, if you're an adult, non-pregnant adult, and you're talking about black tea, green tea, eating, drinking, Japan, China, and I have all the charts and exactly what the safe level is. But that totally, I mean, that's something I've been doing for a while, and so that was a big change. And that was we just had never tested the lead levels before, and now that we did, getting my tea from Japan now.
But what happens to all those people who saw that video originally or saw the charts originally? How do we get to them and let them know to stop putting it in their smoothies?
I tell them to that's why you subscribe to Nutrition Facts. You can't just go there once in a while. You sign up for free daily, weekly, or monthly updates, and then I'll tell you if something's changed.
And we are definitely going to put that in our show notes. We'll link to everything that we're talking about today in our show notes.
But I just want to step in because you mentioned green tea, and green tea is super high in antioxidants, but also it's got that energy boost that people are looking for, which brings me over to coffee, which you have tons of coffee videos, and you do tons of videos, tons of stuff all the time. Do you sleep? I don't know. Are you drinking coffee? No, you're drinking green tea, I assume. But what is the latest science saying about coffee, and what are your thoughts on it?
So, not that coffee is unhealthy, but as with everything in our diet, there's an opportunity cost. Every cup of coffee is a lost opportunity for drinking green tea. It's like how much room you got. It's a space-occupying liquid, so you can only have, it's not like foods aren't so much good or bad, they're better or worse, right? And so it's a lost opportunity to eat something healthier. Green tea is probably better data suggesting it's good, so you drink what's, but it's not that coffee's bad for you, although certainly it can increase, if you have acid reflux disease, if you have urinary incontinence, if you're not sleeping good. There's a couple things you may want to cut down on coffee. If you have ischemic heart disease, I wouldn't drink coffee. But other than that, great if you have hepatitis C, fatty liver disease. Really seems to be beneficial for the liver in a variety of chronic states. It prevents a lot of deaths on the road with truckers being awake and not plowing into people.
So those are ways not to die.
Those are ways not to die.
Which brings us to your new book that was just released, How Not to Die.
How Not to Die on bookshelves now.
So how did you come up with that title? Because there's so many ways you could have gone with that. How to die healthy, how to live longer, how not to die
sick.
Okay, remind me not to ask you for a reference if it's evil.
So how'd you come up with that title?
It's actually not me. It was actually the guy that ghost wrote the South Beach Diet. Came up with that title. He was originally going to help me write the book, but we kind of had it didn't work out. But I got help from other people. But he actually came up with the original title. I loved it.
Yeah, we like that.
Very catchy.
So in your book, you talk about your daily dozen.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about how you came up with those.
Yeah, so basically, as I learned more, I just I'd come home from the medical library and my family would roll their eyes and be like, oh, what can't we eat now? Or, wait a second, why does everything have parsley in it all of a sudden? Or whatever, And then I'd come across the study. I was like, oh, yeah, damn, I'm supposed to add vinegar to everything. I forgot about how awesome vinegar is. And I just keep, it's just like, wow, flax seeds are great. Oh, I've been forgetting to add flax seeds to my smoothies or whatever. So I was like, darn it, I'm going to write it all down. So on the fridge, I was like, okay, got to remember to get my beans every day. Got to get my quarter teaspoon of turmeric. Got to get, and so it ended up as like a little checklist. And, I'd look at it and be like, oh, darn it, I should have added that. Okay, so now I make sure I get, I get my ounce of nuts in, So basically, these are the foods that I try, that I recommend people get in for an optimal diet. And, just as a guide, serving size, what to drink, kind of all this stuff, how much exercise to get. And in hopes that it'll help other people, kind of inspire them to, crowd out less healthy foods in their diet.
Now, have you ever tried throwing all 12 of those into one blender at one time and make a smoothie out of it?
No, but I do have, I have recipes I think I have an 8 checkmark pesto recipe, right? Yeah. Where I get everything, right? You can get greens in there, you can get nuts in there, you can get, I forget what I throw in that thing. But, I maybe to check off 8 things in one recipe. I love doing that kind of stuff. And it's like, what meal can't you, just throw a few spoonfuls of canned beans in, right? I mean, or what couldn't you sprinkle some nuts on or some seeds or some, I mean, pretty much there's some things that you can do. You can put everything on a bed of greens, right? That's one way you eat greens. It's just whatever you're eating, you put on greens. Like the bottom of your bowl or plate has greens, and then you throw everything on top, right?
I made my daughter a milkshake today after school, and it had a bit of greens, it had some beans, and then it had cacao powder and
Whoa.
cashew milk, and she didn't know what was in it. She drank it down like a chocolate shake, and she loved it. Yeah.
Hey, smart mom.
So we won't tell everybody what those Daily Dozen are. We'll let them go out and buy the book because it does fund the charity.
If you actually, I did a kind of book trailer, a video about the book, and I actually show I mean, so you don't have to buy. I mean, you can see it there, but if you want to kind of be how I came up with the Daily Dozen and what's the reasons, and obviously, I go into much more detail in terms of and how I, in my own daily diet, kind of translate this mountain of evidence into kind of like practical day-to-day kind of stuff. But all the science either is already up on the site or will eventually be up on the site. I've kind of queued up stuff, but yeah, no, the book was really exciting for me because it gave me an opportunity to talk about some of the stuff I never really got to talk about on the website. Because the website is like stick to the science, right? But I want to talk about like kitchen gadgets and recipes and like my favorite brand or whatever. And oh my God, have you tried this? But that's that's not the role of Nutrition Facts. Right? It's Nutrition Facts, not like
Nutrition Greger.
What?
Not Nutrition Greger.
Nutrition Greger.
But that's what's nice about the book. You have the first half that focuses on those leading causes of death in the U.S., and then you have the second half that focuses on your opinion of things. So this is giving you the opportunity to really give your true self to the public, which you're not really doing on those very humorous and entertaining and full of factual information videos that you put up on the website. So you're really educating everybody, and this is a book that should be everywhere. Like, I'm going to order a copy for my school, and I think it should be everywhere in the libraries. People should be buying it for their homes. It basically should be it's an encyclopedia.
It really turned into kind of a reference book. I mean, the first half, right? I mean, really, this is the most compelling evidence we have for the role diet can play in preventing, treating, reversing disease. And then has the more kind of practical piece too. I'm really excited how it turned out. I mean, I was going into the project, I mean, I knew it was going to take so much. It took me about 8 months. And it was just like, I got so much on my plate. There's no way I can write a book, right? But, but then they were like, we'll give you a lot of money. I'm like, I don't accept money for my books. They're like, we'll give Nutrition Facts a lot of money. And I was like, all right.
You got me.
You got me.
So you're walking on your treadmill. Everything you do online on Nutrition Facts, really most of it focuses on nutrition. Right, but we're talking to you here. You're walking on your treadmill. Obviously, there's an important fitness aspect to everything that we do.
Sure.
So what kind of exercise would you recommend to people? And what do you like to do? Is it just walking, or do you have something else that you like to do?
Well, I mean, the most important thing is avoiding inactivity. I mean, so it's actually two things: physical activity, actually separate, from avoiding physical inactivity. So even people, there's evidence suggesting that even people who go to the gym after work and pound out an hour a day, which is like 3 times, national recommendations. That's all the minimum, right? If they're sitting 6 hours a day or more before they go to the gym, they actually have increased mortality compared to those that don't. Even though, right, they're like totally exercising like crazy in their mind, but sitting is bad for us, independent of our level of physical activity. And so, but we need both. I mean, there's all sorts of benefits of moderate to vigorous activity. And from mood and immune function and on down the list, we were built to move, and we should do it. And there's benefits of sleep. Do as I say, not as I do. And other aspects of healthy living. But really, I think diet really comes down as most important. Smoking number 2, then probably put in exercise as number 3.
So sit less, walk more. get active.
So you don't have to walk. I mean, this is just I'd swim laps, but my laptop would not. It wouldn't
not
work
waterproof.
well.
That's the
Right?
benefit of the treadmill
so,
desk.
Yeah, no. So it's right. So I can only I limit myself to exercise I can do while being productive, which really seriously limits me. But I mean that's one of the reasons I drink smoothies is because I can work, walk on my treadmill, and eat at the same time. It's all about time management.
It's a multitasker.
To do what you do, you've definitely got to do that, for sure.
You got it.
And we appreciate everything that you do, and I know that you have lots and tons of fans out there who really appreciate everything that you do. And there was nothing like this until now, until you stepped up and you.
I mean, it was something that I was looking for myself, for my own practice, for my patients, and it just did not exist. And so it's like, well, darn it, if no one's gonna do it, I mean, it's like, I remember like when Atkins, the whole Atkins diet craze was crazy. I was like, there wasn't like a single anything out there really just, systematically going through and talking about the science. So eventually I wrote a book on the Atkins diet. It's just like, darn it, come on, step up, people. So there wasn't a good resource like this, but there should be 20 other nutritionfacts.org. I mean, there's certainly the literature to support it. There should be an exercisefacts.org and a sleepingfacts.org. And it's like, what's all the new science? I mean, you hear all this crazy stuff in the news. Oh, you should, here's the optimum timing of exercise. Here's all this crazy circuit training stuff. Like, what's the data? Does it actually, should you eat before or after you exercise? All these great questions, right? But, like, what does the science actually say? I don't know. I want exercisefacts.org and just, figure it out.
Is there the science even being done on that?
Oh, I'm sure. Well, maybe. That's a good question. But, I mean, if you just type in, if you go to PubMed, the National Library of Medicine's, database, and put in, exercise, you get a good 20,000 articles just pop up. And it's just a matter of we need someone to sift through them.
Yeah, we need more people like you who spend hours and hours and hours going through thousands of papers to find all this scientific evidence to post on this very well put together factual website for everybody to educate themselves. And you're doing a really great job with that, and we really appreciate it. We really appreciate having you on the show today. You haven't been on our show before.
Until now.
There you go. So thanks again. We wish you the best of luck with your book, How Not To Die. And we're going to put all the links to everything we talked about in our show notes. And hopefully very soon we'll catch up in person.
Fantastic. Look forward to it. Keep up the good work.
Thanks
a lot.
Too.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
So we hope you enjoyed that episode, whether it was your first time or you've listened to it a few times. Hopefully you got something new out of it.
Don't forget to join us next week for episode 207 with Josh Lajani.
Our good buddy, our good friend, inspiration and motivation all the time, our buddy Josh.
Oui.
Thank you so much for listening to this edition of the Plant Trainers Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or any other podcast listening platforms. We appreciate the feedback we receive from you. Every time we get a 5-star rating or review on iTunes from one of our fans, it ensures other people will find us too. Thanks to our patrons. To become a patron, visit www.patreon.com/planttrainers. Even supporting us with $1 really makes a difference. Connect and follow us on Instagram and Twitter @PlantTrainers. Like Plant Trainers on Facebook, join our newsletter, and check out our website at www.planttrainers.com for awesome plant-based recipes and a list of our services. Email your questions to info@planttrainers.com so we can answer them on our upcoming Facebook Lives. We hope we've inspired you today. Join us again next time, and have a healthy day.